All right, Wayne, we got Jameson Steward live, but not in person, unfortunately. He had something come up back home. Ministry happens.
He's with us in spirit.
That's right, with us in spirit and with us
And
from
Zoom.
the shoulder up. And we're really glad that we've got him to be able to be here. Jameson, I don't even really know how to introduce Jameson, because I feel like even though he's older than I am, I feel like we have known each other for our entire lives, because we've been linked throughout church camp and different church events and all that good stuff. And he's one of my closest friends. I'm thankful for him. We share a lot in common when it comes to sports, and we do fantasy football league together. We've talked about that before. We finally got Daniel Webster to quit. I think that was probably that might solve this country's problems, that Daniel took a step back from our fantasy football league, because he was really, really frustrating all of us because of how good he was. And he'd take these players and then he'd never trade them to you. And now he's not doing that anymore. So I think we, honestly, if I were to start this episode off with anything, I would just say, have you seen The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Either of you? You've seen it? Wayne, you've seen it?
I have seen it.
I haven't. So what happens in that movie? No.
Okay.
But Jameson,
here's a recap.
It's really good to have you on the show today. And I thought it would be kind of fun. We did That Really Happen with you last year. And 90% of that episode was Jameson saying, I don't remember that. And I don't recall that. And so I hope that you went to a doctor and got checked out and got your memory back in order. But I'm going to talk about
I might have.
something.
I don't remember.
Well, yes, I don't remember.
There you go.
I thought we'd talk about something all three of us got to experience when we were in preaching school, and that is the restoration trip. Wayne, what year did you go on the restoration trip?
That would have been 90. 2000. Sorry.
90?
No.
Not how old you were.
19.
Back in the 1900s.
1900s.
I was about to say, and at first I was going with it. I was like, yeah, 19
Yeah,
what?
absolutely. No. 2000.
10?
I was in school 2007 to 9.
Okay, so 08.
So
probably.
08.
Yeah. Okay, so then I
Wow.
went in 2015. Jameson, what year did you go on the restoration trip?
Pretty sure if I remember right, I went my second year, which would have been, I guess the spring of 2018, I think,
Okay.
would have been when we went.
And then they didn't have one in 2020. And so they didn't really have the opportunity to offer the restoration trip for like 3-4 years at that point. Now, some unique things that happened on that trip happened to me the second time I got to go, when I went this past time. And so I wrote them down, and I thought we could talk about them. I have a lot that happened on this trip because at every turn there was something crazy that happened. The first thing was, you remember the first thing we do on that trip is we go to Casey's Village and have the great breakfast, that they have with the bacon and all that good stuff. Well, Dad on the bus is leading the tour, and he says, they have this crackling bread that is really, really good here, and I'm really excited to have that, and I want all of you to be looking for it. You'll really enjoy it. So we get there, and Dad does not have a bad memory like Jameson, and so he knows that they had crackling bread at least at one point. We get seated, we go and get our food at the buffet style, and there's no crackling bread. So Dad sits back down and he waits, and he politely says, "Hey, does the crackling bread, is it being made? Is it coming out soon?" And she said, "Sir, we've never put crackling bread out on the breakfast table," which is a really dumb answer to give to the man that has one of the greatest memories I've ever seen, because he politely responded and said, "You absolutely have, because I've had it before." And then this woman started getting indignant. "We've never done it." And Dad was like, "Okay, whatever. I'm not going to get into a huge fight over crackling bread," but she was so offended that he had the audacity to call her out. Well, the second thing you do on the trip is you go to Abraham Lincoln's birthplace. And people talk about Abraham Lincoln's birthplace as a weird place to stop. But what we do when we go there is we talk about a rumor that had been spread that Abraham Lincoln was a Christian, and we talk about the validity of that, whether it's true, what facts and evidences can back it up or what things won't. Well, while we were there, we're leaving and we're walking back to the bus, and there's this car that has all these bumper stickers on it. And it caught my attention because it had 2 Pittsburgh Penguin stickers. And I was like, oh, Dad likes the Penguins. I'll point that out to him as we go. Well, then we start getting a little closer to it, and it's a bunch of like, how do you say this in a nice way without seeming like you're just really dunking on somebody? They were stickers of a triggered person, if that makes sense. Okay, I think that's the nicest way I can say it. And this person also had this fuzzy steering wheel, this massive pink fuzzy steering wheel. And so naturally, all of us are enamored by this car, and we're staring at it. And this sheepish girl starts walking and says, I didn't think there'd be an audience, and was like really blushed, like embarrassed, I guess. And as I'm walking away, I said to Dad, I was like, then don't put all that stuff on your car. Like, what? If you don't want to be a spectacle, why are you slamming all these stickers all over and putting the fuzzy? Does anybody, I mean, when you walk through, don't you notice cars like that and stop and read the stickers?
Absolutely.
Jameson, do you do that, or can you remember?
I just try to mind my business. No.
Yeah.
No, it probably would have noticed it. Yeah. Something like that.
Well, it's the same with the Jeep and the ducks, you know, having all those ducks in the, what is that about? I need you to tell me, because I'm unlearned in this, but Megan was joking about them the other day that they're for the bath. You know, when you get home, you can put all the little rubber duckies in there. What are those ducks?
Jeep people enjoy baths, man.
Yeah.
Bath time. It's a special time.
I know the V for victory. I know the holding up the 2
Yeah.
is I know the history behind that, but what is?
I think, I don't know if it was during COVID that it happened, that it kind of picked up, but it was somebody had a child that was sick or something like that, but they wanted to do something nice. And so they were trying to encourage people. And so ducking was the idea. And so
Okay.
they just put a little duck on Jeeps, and especially Jeep people or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I've seen lately that I don't know if people got jealous. They didn't drive Jeeps. And so I'm a Jeep person, so it's why I'm getting this
now.
question. I understand, but they didn't drive Jeeps, so
Yeah.
other people wanted to start doing it. So I'm starting to see them in other places as well. But I think the idea to begin with was just to try to encourage somebody, make somebody smile. And so they would usually put a ribbon around it or whatever, and it had a go to this Facebook page or whatever, take a picture with it with your Jeep, and
Yeah.
you could post something or whatever. And so it just kind of grew social media wise,
Right.
it just lit fire and went everywhere. So, but it was just kind of to encourage people, especially, maybe somebody that was sick or just, having a bad day. Well, it might just kind of pick them up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it began. I don't know that most people know that now. It's just out of control, honestly.
Yeah, I've seen like 40 ducks
and
in
I
someone's
refuse to
Jeep.
put ducks on my newer Jeep. So,
I thought that was weird because I'd seen them in the one you had before this
Yeah.
one. And then I
I
was
had them in the
wondering,
Wrangler, and then when I got the Gladiator, I said, "No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah. Well,
I get them still all the time, and I just immediately go put it somewhere else. Or I give them to Piper now, so
Yeah.
pass them on to her.
That's kind of nice.
That's better.
I don't understand how people have the money to like fund that habit. Because like you have to
Really?
buy those ducks. Like,
Really?
Don't start with me. Just don't. You can leave. It's all right. Adam's over there. We can have him come sit on here. He knows Jameson better than you do anyway. So don't you start with me. I don't understand how people would fund a habit like that personally.
Sure.
So I have a question, I guess, for the two of you. With the first day of the trip, because the restoration trip is a grind. It's 5 days long. You start in Memphis, leaving the school, and you go all the way up to West Virginia. And then you make your way back down through Ohio, go through the Creation Museum. That's what you did, and I did, because that's what was the only thing built at the time. Jameson got to go through the Ark and the Creation Museum. And then you trek back down from Ohio back to Memphis. And so you're talking like probably a 2,000-mile trip or more by the time you're done. So what type of things on like day one maybe do you guys remember from Abraham Lincoln's, place, Casey's Village, all that kind of anything that sticks out or kind of creeps into your mind of like, oh yeah, that happened? was that lady with the bumper stickers at y'all's trip.
She was hanging out there then.
It's like, I didn't think there'd be an audience. Well, stop hanging out here.
She was just a baby when I went through, okay, back in the 1900s.
Yeah, back in the 1920s when you went.
Go ahead, James.
I remember going to Abraham Lincoln's birthplace. That was that was pretty cool. I had actually forgotten that we stopped at Casey's for breakfast, but I mean, I've been there before. It's good. Abraham Lincoln's birthplace was, I don't know, it's just a really neat stop. You're not there very long, but you just kind of walk up to this, I guess it's the cabin kind of at the top of that hill that's inside this building. And it's just pretty neat to see that. In fact, here recently, a few years ago, we took our kids up to the Creation Museum and the Ark. And when we were coming back, because I think I saw it on a sign or something, I was like, oh yeah, we're fixing to pass here. Let's pull over and let's go to this. And so I took the kids to that a few years ago, and I don't know if they liked it, but I just like history. And it's just a really neat, it's a very pretty place. Mm-hmm. Just a little, like a clearing just opens up in the middle of these woods, and it's this beautiful green, just meadow basically. And on top of this hill, Abraham Lincoln's birthplace up there, a pretty neat spot. If you've never had a chance to go, that's certainly one that's worth swinging in for a few minutes. And who knows, you might see a car with some bumper stickers. Yeah.
I've heard it's a really great place to stop on the way to the theater. So don't you start with me. Don't you start. Anyways, we went during the eclipse. So we actually got to see the eclipse at Abraham Lincoln's birthplace. And it kind of made me think, we have these glasses, that you can hold up and look at the eclipse, but I don't really know the history of how long those glasses have been around. And so whenever that time period was that Abraham Lincoln was alive, what did they do during eclipses? Like, did they just not look? I mean, to us, it's a spectacle. People drive from all over the place. They rent a hotel for the weekend, wherever the totality is going to be the highest, they want to be there. But I just kind of was thinking about it. Like, if you look at it, you go blind. So what did they do before those glasses were invented? How did they invent those glasses? How many people became blind inventing those glasses? Because you had to test it some way, right? I mean, these are the things I think about, and I need answers. So, Wayne, what do you got? What would you do if, buddy?
I'm going to pass on that one.
Oh, yeah, sure. Jameson doesn't even remember what I just asked, so whatever. We'll just keep going. It's fine.
I do remember day one was pretty cool. I don't remember on which day it was, but I do have a bus event that happened actually on the bus. And there's a picture floating around Facebook. And I don't know, probably it'd be either on mine or Cindy's or possibly on John Manning's Facebook page. But John Manning decided to climb into the above head storage. And, we're like, no, you can't fit in that. It's kind of one of those things where, no, you can't fit in that. There's no way. Well, he's got Manning in his blood, and he was determined he was going to do that. So we kept egging him on, and finally? Yeah, well, I'm trying to read. So finally, he climbs up on the top of the back of one of the seats, and he's in it. Like, we took some of the luggage out. And
I've
finally,
seen this photo.
He is up in the above head storage on the bus, and he probably rode up there for 30 minutes or so before, because then we wouldn't let him out. Of course, we had to get the obligatory photo to prove that he did it. We're like, okay, sorry, man. We closed him down and just kind of held him there and made him ride that way for probably 30 minutes. That was pretty good though. That was good stuff.
How many buses did y'all have?
We had 2 buses.
Yeah.
I think we had 2.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was 2 buses.
Okay.
It was a long time ago, back in the 1900s.
So, Jameson, did anybody stick themselves in the top bin of the bus while you were on the restoration trip?
Not in our bus. I think we had 2 buses as well. And the bus that I traveled in was a little bit, I think it was a little bit more quieter. it was the other bus was the one I think where all the activity was.
Yeah, that's usually
our
how it
bus
goes.
was a little. Our bus was a little bit quieter, kind of the more, I guess, laid back, quieter people. Was in the bus I was in, thankfully, which was fine because when we went to Abraham Lincoln's birthplace, I bought a book about Abraham Lincoln there, and I read that book while we were on the bus for the trip. And I think by the time we got back, I finished it. So, and it's a really, this isn't it, but I mean, it was something, really thick book. Like that one I just showed if you were watching the video. If not, then oh well. But
Yeah.
For our podcast listeners, he held up a thick book.
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry, you're out of luck. If you can't picture a thick book, then I can't help you.
If AI is reading this right now,
Yeah.
it's like,
if you guys
thick
are
book was held up to the
With this newfangled technology we all have, some of you have never seen a thick book before.
That's right. They're like, did he hold up a Kindle? What happened?
his iPad. What's the deal?
So the second thing that happened where the majority of our stories happened on this last trip was at the Campbell Mansion. So we didn't know. No one said anything. But we go to the Campbell Mansion, and the way that they've got it set up now, I don't know if it was set up like this for y'all, but the way they've got it set up is you start here in this room, then you have other groups in other rooms, and you all just kind of like switch around, kind of like block scheduling in college would be. And so you're all going to get the same tour at the same exact time, but they're getting one half, you're getting the other, and then you keep going till you're done. So we go to the very first room, and Jacob Kennedy is on this group with us, and he decides to take some pictures. Now, we were not told that you cannot take any photos, so we kind of just felt like, well, he's just doing what anybody does when you go to any museum. And all of a sudden, this guy like busts in the room, gets in
Alexander
Jacob's
Campbell
face and says, "No pictures." And Jacob's like freaked out because he's like in this guy's face almost at this point, yelling at him, "No pictures." Well, Dad's in our group too. And so Dad steps up and goes, "No one said that. He knows now." Kind of like, easy, back off, get back. Essentially, as we looked at all of these things, they told him no pictures. Jameson, were you guys allowed to take photos while you were in the Campbell Mansion?
I don't remember. I do know, because I've still got on my computer pictures from that trip, like everywhere we went. And I do know I have pictures from the outside. I'd have to go back through my computer to see if I took pictures of the inside. This is another topic for another time. I have seen all of that in much greater detail before that trip. So I was familiar with the Campbell Mansion. So I may not have taken pictures of the inside anyway, because once upon a time there was a trip I went on that involved a lot of pictures and footage of that mansion. So yeah. So I think there are certain rooms, especially if I remember right, like there's one special room that's got this really intricate old wallpaper. And I do feel like maybe they told us, I feel like in that room especially, there was no pictures. But
so that's the next story that I've got. In that room, they don't want any flash photography. They're very specific about it. You're right. Well, we walk in, and I'm not saying this to be mean, okay? I know Jameson is going to think I am, and Wayne, you're going to think I am too, but I promise I'm not. Everybody giving the tour was in the latter years of their life. And so at one point I asked, are these Alexander Campbell's children that are giving this tour? Because, they're all very old. Well, this one woman in this room with the wallpaper, at one point she said, "I see fish." And we all thought she was having a stroke. we thought this lady was dying in front of us because we didn't understand what she was talking about. And then she kept saying it. She's like, I see fish. And she meant in the room that there were fish as a part of the decor. And when you look at the window in that room, the little window sill at the top, the little decorative thing that they often put, there are fish in that as the decor, but it's very subtle. And if you don't look for it, you won't see it. But when we left the room, several people in our group said, did you think she was having a stroke? And I said, yeah, I really thought, because I mean, she went from doing the tour, pausing, and then the next thing out of her mouth was, I see fish. And we were like, oh, this lady, somebody call the ambulance. She needs to go. But we found out why they don't let you take pictures. Apparently, people were taking photos, putting them online, and then they were getting robbed, which I did not think was a thing.
Like the Campbell Mansion?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were getting robbed, and they had several things kind of going on that way where they were worried if you posted what they had, they would be robbed further. And so, Dudley Do-Right that had come in and told us not to take the photos later on the trip, he said, who wants to go see Alexander Campbell's mansion? And I was like, who? He said, Alexander Campbell. And that's what he called him the whole time.
Wow.
And I looked at Dad and I said, does he think that Alexander Graham Bell and Alexander Campbell are the same person? And I wanted to ask, but Dad wouldn't let me. He told me no. And so I really believe if I'd asked that, though,
would have cleared some things up.
Yeah. I mean, how couldn't it? Do you guys have any fun things happen while you're at the mansion? Either time you went, Jameson?
Not that I remember. I mean, like I said, I remember when we went to the mansion, it was just, it hadn't been all that long before. Maybe 4 or 5 years earlier, I had been involved with going on a shoot there with GBN. You can find the video on their YouTube channel, a documentary about Alexander Campbell. So I had seen all of that stuff before. So I think for me personally, it was like, it's a beautiful spot. That was more what I enjoyed being out there, because it is absolutely just, when you're someone like me who's grown up in Mississippi and all you've ever seen is flat ground, you get to go up in the mountains up there and it's like, man, this is just such a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anything specific like that happening, because I was probably like, okay, I have seen this stuff before. But yeah, it's a beautiful spot. And I would say if folks have never been there, you really need to go at some point. It's a really beautiful place.
Did y'all eat the meal that
Yes.
Alexander Campbell, did you eat the meal that Alexander Campbell would have had back in that time?
No.
You didn't get to experience that?
No.
It's disgusting. It's not bad. It's a lot of stuff I can't eat, unfortunately, because of Crohn's. But there's like peas, cabbage, boiled cabbage, I think.
Was that at the college?
Yeah.
Okay. So
you
I
did
did
eat that, right? Yeah. So you know what it was.
You started talking about peas.
The ham and all
I
that.
eat peas and ham all the time.
Yeah. Well, I know that. But this was at Alexander Campbell's, the college area.
Right.
Where they put you in that room and they do all that. Well, we had someone on the tour who is allergic to dairy, so eggs as well, peanuts, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the food there, we were worried was going to have stuff that, she couldn't eat. Well, one of the guys came out and said, you can have the cherry cobbler, which immediately the flour and all of that other stuff that she's allergic to seemed like a pipe dream that she could have that. But she asked multiple times, and the guy was saying multiple times, yes, you can have that. It's safe to eat. So she goes and gets one, and she's eating it. And she gets about 2 or 3 bites in, and the guy comes back out, and he's like, you can't have that. There's
I am so sorry.
I have messed up.
He said, what will happen to you? And she's really quick on her feet. And she said, oh, I'm going to die now. And he said, "Oh, please don't say that." And she goes, "No, I can't have this. I'm going to die." And he was like, "Well, I'm really sorry." They just walked away.
We
So
have
it's
a
like,
beautiful graveyard on the hill.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
You can be buried in the same place Alexander Campbell was buried.
By the way, Ken de Grambell.
So that's an experience, eating the way that he would have eaten back then. That same trip for us, this past one, I've got 2 more things that happened, and then I'll let you guys say anything too that happened to you. And these are the best ones, though. I think next to last is this one. We go to these hotels, and then you don't have a car, so you got to walk to wherever you're going to eat. So one of the nights we decided we were going to go to Rafferty's because it's just right behind. So me, Dad, and Matthew Teskey are going to go. And we walk outside, and it starts hailing. And so we're getting pelted with hail, and we get underneath the awning. I don't have an umbrella. Dad doesn't have a hoodie or anything. Matthew does. So Matthew puts his hood on, and then he gives Dad his baseball cap. So Dad and Matthew have their heads covered. And then I have to run in the rain and potential hail again to get to Rafferty's. So I get into Rafferty's, and I look like I've just taken a shower. And one of the guys at the front says, "How we doing tonight?" And I said, "Look, I don't want to be sarcastic, but I think you know." Like that, I'm pretty sure you know how I'm doing tonight. Well, there was a girl standing next to him. She thought that was hilarious, and she said, "I'll take you to your seat." And as we're going to the seat, she goes, "Do you need any paper towels?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." I really appreciate it. Before I tell my last story, Jameson, we have a listener who has sent in a question. It's Adam. He's just 10 feet over there. He would like me to ask you, and I want to pause because I'm sure there's a dread of fear that is entering your body right now. He wants me to ask you about being put in the trunk of a white van, of a random guy's van at the Campbell Mansion, and taken into the woods.
Yeah, it was great. No,
That's not what I expected.
Yeah, I loved it. When they put me back, I was like, again.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is partly a promo for the GBN Campbell documentary, because that's when this happened. One of the things that we did on that shoot was there was the creek. Was it Buffalo Creek? I can't remember the name of it exactly. It may have been Buffalo Creek. Anyway, the place
He's giving
where
thumbs up.
Campbell and his family were supposedly baptized, at least the place anyway. This guy that we met supposedly knew, hey, this is the general spot in the creek where it happened. But it was way back in the middle of nothing. And so we meet this guy, I don't even know that it was a road back there. And we get in this van, and there's a seat up front for the driver, and then the passenger next to him, which is where him and David Kinney sat. And then for Adam and I, there was just the back of this van, like empty with a bunch of stuff. I think there may have been like some saws on the floor.
Not sketchy at all.
So Adam and I were right in the back, like, this is it. This is the way it all ends.
This is how we go.
Yeah, this is how we go. But
hey,
how
Michael
we rode
Brown
out
was there too.
Yeah, Michael Brown. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to get killed too. Let's not leave him out of this.
Yeah. I think that was the one thing that made us feel good. Is it's like, okay, unless this dude's got some accomplices out here, we outnumber this guy. At the very least, we feel confident that we can outrun somebody.
Somebody. Maybe not that body, but somebody.
Somebody.
Yeah. Of the 4 of us, he can only take one of us. So, anyway. But yeah, we got out to the creek, and we set up and we filmed out there. And then we rode back in the back of that van with no seat, sitting on the floor of it, beside all the saws and the tools and all that. So it was a great time. Good fun.
So
nobody died.
Did you ever get an explanation though for why the saws were there?
I think he was like that was like his work vehicle. I hope.
What? That doesn't make me feel better. This is his work vehicle. It's, what do you do for a living? I kill people.
I work.
I work. I work.
Yeah. He liked us though. So
what do you do for a living? I make sure other people don't.
Yeah.
All right. I've got one last one. It takes a little bit of time, but I promise it's worth it. Before I do that, Wayne, do you have anything you want to talk about the restoration trip?
Well, we have a beloved instructor that is a pun master, and our brother Mosier.
Mm-hmm.
And so to try to keep up with him, you have to be sharp. So you're always trying to come up with new ones. Well, I was babying a kidney stone on this particular trip. And so I was chugging water and, trying to pass the stone. Well, we go out to where Barton W. Stone is buried. We're in that cemetery. And so there's a bust on top of his gravestone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see clearly his name. And so we're going by there and somebody snapped a picture and it was the perfect Wayne's passing the stone. And so it was not really funny, but it was a pun. So anyway.
It was punny.
It was punny. There you go. That's all I got.
Jameson, have you ever had a kidney stone? No. No,
I have not.
They're not hilarious. They're really not funny at all, okay?
So here's what happened. We're at the hotel that is closest to the Creation Museum and the Ark. And Matthew had told me that there was this woman who at breakfast was preaching to our students. And that's not crazy uncommon. You see a big group of people like that, you're at the hotel, you're probably going to the Ark and the Creation Museum too. But I did not get to meet this lady. And so we start walking, get onto the elevator that afternoon, and we bump into her. And I wish we hadn't. Bless her heart. I'm sure she believes all this stuff. But she got real close to both me and Matthew and said, you need to follow this prophet. This prophet. And the first thing she said, I'm so lucky I did not bust out laughing because I thought she was kidding. But she said, this is the prophet that predicted the underwear bomber. And I was like, what? And she tells the story about that he predicted it and, helped prevent it. He predicted Donald Trump would be elected in 2016. He predicted that the pandemic would happen. He predicted that there's going to be a train of money coming our way with tons of money on it. She's saying all this stuff, and she says, you need to follow him. Now, he died, but I'm thinking, wait a minute. Well, if he died, then all of his prophecies should pretty much have come to pass, But it reminded me when I was in school, not Memphis, but I was in college, and I took a spiritual gifts survey for one of my classes, and it told me at the end that I had the gift of prophecy, which I didn't see coming. So I'm pretty sure either that's inaccurate or I have not been awakened yet. But I just remembered that and thought, here's all this stuff. She believes it. Well, Matthew and I know that Dad is at the front desk and he's got to come to the hotel elevator, to get up to our room. So we're just trying to bide time until he gets there. And we just believed wholeheartedly. Dad would say, hey guys, you ready? We got to go. And he would save us. That is not what happened. Dad saw us and waved as he walks by, gets on the elevator, and I said, Dad just left us behind. And she started laughing, and Matthew started laughing, and then Dad starts cackling as the elevator door is closing, and he goes up to his room like there's nothing and leaves us with this lady. And then she comes and grabs both Matthew and my hand, and she said, Jesus said, where 2 or 3 people are gathered together and are touching, if they ask anything in his name, he'll give it. And I told Matthew, I said, I wanted to say, will you ask him to let you leave us alone? We just want to go to our room. And then she said, so do y'all need anything? And Matthew didn't say anything. I said, no, I'm blessed. And then she like pivots to Matthew and gets like real close and goes, what about you? Do you need anything? And Matthew goes, no, I don't think so. What do you say?
That money train would be good right about now.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, we could have asked for anything.
Seriously.
What was our problem, you know? But she
No
did
faith.
tell us.
Lack of faith. That was your problem.
That's it.
Yeah.
She did tell us that, you know, it's not about the money, but it is. And then she said, now I got a new prophet. You can follow him. And I wanted to be snarky and go, is he alive? Is he living? But I didn't do that because I'm somewhat a Christian in moments like that. I remember that I shouldn't be that way. But that was my restoration trip experience this past time. And it was enjoyable. You know, I didn't get to enjoy the first trip as much because I didn't know it, but that's when I had Crohn's. And so I was really like in pain the whole trip. So you were nursing a kidney stone. I was nursing Crohn's. Jameson, what ailment did you have while you were on the restoration trip?
He doesn't remember.
Do you remember?
None. I was reading the whole time. It was reading. Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we jump off?
I don't think so.
Not unless we have another viewer question.
Oh, I don't know.
We're not asking for those.
I mean, Adam's just right there. He could ask anything, and I would be terrified of that. We worked together for a few years, and there's some stuff that happened I wouldn't want to put on record. Well, Jameson, thank you for zooming in. You know, wish you could have been here in person, but we understand, you know, things happen. That's literally the purpose of the show. And you're doing, you know, kind of like Mary was told to have chosen the better part. You're doing what's needed. You're where you need to be. And we'll see you in person here next time. I think the person that was the most disappointed was me. Adam seems to be excited that you're not here. So he's just woohooed. I don't know if you could hear him, but he woohooed. But we're glad that you're able to take some time with us. You know, we're not recording this today because of what you've got to do, but tomorrow and last Tuesday, for those listening, we're going to talk with you about balancing a family life as a minister. When we'll do a shameless plug for that in case anybody's listening to this, and make sure they can go back and catch that episode. When we were picking our speakers, I told Wayne, I said, I think Jameson would be a really good person for this because he's always saying, you know, hey, let me call you back. I've got to go pick up the kids, or I'm having dinner with the kids, or I'm doing this with the kids. I'm going to do take the kids here and there. And there's a really good balance that I've seen from Jameson with this that I'm jealous of at times because I think he's done a very good job of that. So I know that episode will be a benefit to those that are seeking to find that same thing. We talk about balancing family life with local work, stressors that prevent us from having a balanced family life, and how can we accomplish the kingdom coming first, you know, even over our families, but the minister still having a responsibility to raise that godly family. So I'm sure that episode is going to be enjoyable, though we haven't recorded it just yet. But Jameson, thanks. You know, we appreciate it. And I guess I'll close it by saying, you know, a good throwback from several years ago now. Jameson, why are you so ugly? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Good old Barry
nice
Gilreath.
Compilation. Yep.
Yeah. Fabric of Family. That was such a great moment. I remember we were on that episode together, and I remember being like, is this part of the show? Because no one told me that he was going to do that. So, Jameson.
Or me.
Well, yeah, I would hope that you wouldn't know. That'd be kind of weird. Like, yeah, ask me anyway. Thanks for being on. We'll see you next time.